22nd of January 2020. Piotr here. Good afternoon, I would say. But anyway, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, guys. Piotr here, and well, quite a big day for the Canadian dollar. So I'm preparing the trading plan for Light Forex Global YouTube channel when it comes to the Canadian dollar because of the Bank of Canada rate decision. And what is important, we do have the rate decision statement, and then we have press conference. So quite a big day for the Canadian dollar traders. So let's go straight and check what is going on the loonie. All right, so basically from the medium long-term perspective, what's for sure what was very important, it was the retest and attempt to break psychological 130 level with the quite nice recovery and move back above, right? So looks like here at the beginning of the year, the next kind of the direction might depend on the Bank of Canada today and FOMC next week. So it's going to be worth to watch. So what we have from medium and long-term perspective here on the Canadian, how should we approach? Well, the thing which is worth to remember, I think, is a level of 129. Now, why is so important when it comes to the FOMC and next week and Bank of Canada today, right? It's some kind of the over-under which have the level has not been tested after such a huge rally since mid 2018. That's the first thing first. Also, when it comes to the higher time frame chart, we do have this type of the moving support based on the trend line where we are connecting the lower lows, right? So that's something in addition. And as you can see, this 29 here, that could be the correlation of few things. And so, okay, 130 is a psychological, you know, based on the daily, maybe even based on the weekly chart, right? So for example, in the mid of the week, we might see the retest attempt to break lower, but for example, towards the end of the week, we might get back above 130. So that's how I see the things here. As a strong, the last strong support I see in case of the medium or long term on the Canadian dollar, right? To the upside, we are just testing, and we do have a problem with the levels which are very, very important because, come on, look how often here market been reacting at that levels, right? We were witnessing some kinds of the you know, price action which confirm some kind of the significance of that level or of that zone, and in that case we are talking about the levels close to 131. But I think we cannot rule it out one more zone a little bit higher, all right, where we've seen this type of the price action as well, right? Higher towards 31.40, 31.70. So in that case, we have another significant level and zone. So in my opinion, taking into the consideration this longer term chart, this is a daily chart, right? So taking into the consideration that chart, I think that the sellers are waiting around 31.40, 31.70, right? So that's where we are waiting as a sellers, and the buyers are around 29. All right, that's how I see the things from the medium term perspective. And guys, frankly, well, where we are right now, we are in the middle of that way, right? So it's like, let's say, I think it's not gonna be nothing wrong with that if we can call it we are in the mid of the something bigger on the bigger range. But let's have a look what we have from the short-term perspective when it comes to intraday, right? I think that if we are going to call that latest move as a range post this huge rally over here, right? So there are two things. We might either call it as a failure or as a just the correction towards the 50% of that range where we have few significant levels, as you can see, right? Which might provide the opportunity that we are going to see higher levels, right? So overall, basically, after huge rally, right, there is a chance we are going to see the continuation. And this continuation should take us higher towards 3140, 3170, at least what I've been discussing. So today, around this Bank of Canada rate decision, I'm going to watch very carefully levels around 3040, 3020 from the USD-CAD perspective. That's how I see the things. Now, I'm also going to watch GBPCAD. The cable is going higher, a little bit against what my overall expectations, which I've been sharing with you, but that's for another update, right? That's for another update, and I'm going to watch very carefully what we are going to get when it comes to current level, right? So in case we are going to see more bullish Canadian dollar, I would like to see some kind of the failure here, and that would eventually open very similar to what we have on the USDCAD, right? But that could provide, that could be the trigger if we are going to fail here. That could be the trigger and the possible at least 170 retest. And from higher time frame, that would possibly open, right? If we are going to fail, today at those upper shadows, right? That could open the way even lower towards the stops over here, so towards 68, 67, 50. So quite significant, and I'm going to watch Canadian dollar versus pound very carefully, but again I'm going to watch from the failure perspective here around the current level. So here basically from the perspective of the possible short setup on the GBPCAD, right? So that's very important. Next one I'm going to watch is going to be Canadian JPY, right? We discussed the pair few times, so let's have a look what we have. Well, basically, you know, even I was the victim. Nothing to hide. I took the hit on the indices, and not only from the intraday perspective lately. So, you know, everyone's talking about some kind of the crash. Of course, market is moving higher, and there is right now no crash on the horizon. And even if we are discussing from the intraday perspective the possibility of the short setup, I always been saying that, guys, just some kind of the correction, right? Don't expect the crash is going to happen right here, right now. Anyway, let's get back here, and we have we are approaching the levels we discussed quite a few times already, right? So especially taking into the consideration last Friday price action with this upper shadow and a little bit of the rejection at the beginning of the week, I would like to see attempt to retest this 84.70, 85.20, and then to see some kind of the rejection. For now, also the bears are watching the possible failure based on this type of the setup, but in that case we have to get back below 83.70, 83.50 to confirm this type of the price action. So overall, from trading perspective, USD CAD, pound CAD looks good. From this Canadian versus Japanese yen, here we have to wait for an answer, right? Here we have to be a little bit more patient when it comes to the preparation. So, well, that's how I see the things today, all right? When it comes to weaker Canadian, probably USD-CAD. When it comes to the stronger Canadian, probably pound versus Canadian. And when it comes to the Canadian yen here, let's have a look what we are going to get towards end of the day. So guys, don't be trapped. I'm going to make the update if necessary post the Bank of Canada rate decision as well as the post press conference. We will see. Guys, fingers crossed, be good, be careful with the exposure, and see you around. Thank you very much. Goodbye.